Today we begin book 8, the book of temple service, right? Service of Hashem. And this deals with the temple, right? Building the temple and the service in the temple. And the next book is going to be the book of sacrifices, right? So in my introduction, I explained a little bit about the whole concept of sacrifices. People have a very hard time with that today. In any case, how do we understand the concept of sacrifices? So I explained in my introduction, it has to do with the story. It goes back to the story of the Akedah. The Akedah, the sacrifice of Isaac, right? Hashem tells Avraham, take your son. I got 2 sons. Your only son. They're each only sons for their mother. The one you love, I love them both. Take him and bring him up for a burnt offering. Didn't say sacrifice him. Bring him up for a burnt offering on Mount Moriah. And this is considered the paramount sacrifice of history. And the question is why? Throughout our history, Jews have given their lives and their children's lives, which is a lot harder, right, to God. And they weren't as great as Avraham. And they weren't commanded directly by God like Avraham was. So certainly Avraham did it, right? The Crusades, the Inquisitions, Jews gave their lives for God so many times, right? So it was a big thing. Of course Avraham did it. What's the big deal? First of all, you have to know that by Avraham sacrificing his son, he put himself out of business, right? Why? Because what was Avraham's profession? He was an outreach professional today. Outreach professional. He taught the world about God. He thought, you guys, the idolaters, you got it all wrong. You think you have to appease the gods, the idol gods. You want rain, and if you lived in South America during the time of the Aztec Incas, you want rain. What do? You take a flint knife and cut out the heart of a fair maiden for the rain god. How else you get rain? How else you get rain? Right? Sure, they were barbarians. I'm sure they felt very bad for the poor fair maiden. What can you do? We need rain. We need rain. So Avram said, you guys got it all wrong. You don't have to appease God. God doesn't want human sacrifice. God wants gemilas chasadim, kind deeds, what's it called? Bringing guests into your house, hospitality, right? By the way, Avram, where's your son Yitzchak? I sacrificed him. Right? A total contradiction to everything he was preaching, right? He's out of business. That's first of all. But much more than that. The reason why this test was so difficult for Avram was because he knew that Yitzchak was going to be the future Jewish people. He knew he wasn't just a private citizen. He knew that God told him many, many times that you are going to make a nation that's going to teach the world about God. So if you kill Yitzchak, you're killing Yaakov, you're killing Moshe, you're killing the Rambam. No more Rabbi Geller's class. That's it. No, nothing, right? That's it. That was made the test so enormous. But he gets up early in the morning. If you have to kill your son, at least let him oversleep. You got to wake him up. And that's right. First minion, right? Then he goes for 3 days. Think about it for 3 days. You know how hard that is, right? You tell a Buddhist, jump into the fire. And he jumps into the fire. Tell him, wait 3 days to jump into the fire. It's a lot harder. Maybe you'll become a Christian. Right? Right? He comes to the place, he sees a cloud on the mountain. He goes over, Yitzchak's 37 years old. You're not a little boy, right? Tell me, what's your name again?
Mine, Alex.
Alex, what would you say if somebody came to you and said, God told me to kill you? What do you think the Torah says you should do? Go right ahead? He didn't tell me, I'm out of here. He didn't tell me, right? How is Yitzchak allowed to let his father kill him? Just because he said, God told me to kill you, right? So the answer, of course, it depends on that person is. If you happen to know that guy's a prophet and he's buddies with God like Avraham, that's a different story. He's allowed to, all right? Okay, he's 37 years old. He takes him, ties him down, takes a knife, ready to slaughter his son, right? And the angel says, you passed the test with flying colors. Don't do it. Let me just make a little cut. She's always serious. No, nothing, right? Okay. Then it says he sees a ram caught in the thorn bush. This ram was waiting for this minute since the 6 days of creation, and he ran towards him, and the Satan put a thorn bush there to make it more difficult. And he takes the ram and he slaughters the ram instead of his son. Now, does that make any sense? Does that make any sense? Right? Imagine you just gave me $1 million in cash. Thank you so much. How can I show my appreciation? I just found a bobby pin on the floor. Please take this bobby pin I found on the floor. It's not your mind. I found it on the floor. Please take you $1 million. Not making any sense, right? His son, the future Jewish people, right? Who was born to him at the age of 100, right? Slaughter him, right? Just oh, thank you, Hashem. I just found a ram here. I didn't even buy it. Just found it here. Please take this ram I found and send it to my son. Does that make any sense, right? And after he slaughters the ram, then he gets a blessing. Your children should be like the stars in heaven, like the sand in the sea. Through your children shall be blessed. All the nations are a tremendous blessing. 1 second. When did he pass the test? When he slaughtered the ram or when he was ready to slaughter his son? Tell me. Say there was no ram. Did he pass the test? Yes. Who cares about the ram? So why did he only get the blessing after he slaughtered the ram? He should have gotten the blessing right away. You hear the question? He's ready to slaughter his son, pass the test. He slaughters the ram instead of his son, whatever that means, and then he gets a blessing. So the commentaries explain that when Avram slaughtered that ram, in his mind's eye, it was as if he was slaughtering his son. And he cried bitter tears. How can I do this to my only son, the future Jewish people? And he overcame his emotions and said, it's the will of God. And he slaughtered the ram. He said, thank you, God, for taking the ram instead of my son. Then he took the blood of the ram. And he said, it's the blood of Isaac. He thought it was the blood. He went through the entire emotional conflict. How can I do it? It's the future Jewish people. And Hashem says, it's God's will, we do it. No questions asked. Every act he did, he slaughtered the ram instead of his son, literally. Every act he did to the ram was like he's doing to his son. And Hashem considered that as if he actually slaughtered his son, and that way he got the blessing, right? So when a Jew came to Jerusalem and brought an animal, he would put his weight on the animal and say, this animal should be instead of me. And when he saw the blood of the animal, that should be my blood, that should be my fat, right? You were a changed person. That made a tremendous emotional impact on a person, right? You were different. That was the concept of sacrifices. So we start with the book of temple service. And the first thing is to build a sanctuary, right? It's a mitzvah to build a sanctuary, right? Where do we have that commandment? In the desert. You know, there's a place called Nebel Musa, where the Arabs claim that that was where Moshe is buried. That's where Sinai, where the Torah was given on Sinai, Mount Sinai. They have a monastery there, Santa Caterina, I think it's called. They have a mosque there, no synagogue. Why is there no synagogue there? Well, who says that's a spot? But even if that is a spot, right. All the holiness on Mount Sinai was transferred to the tabernacle. When we built the Mishkan, that's where it all went, right? There was a fire on the mountain, right? In the last week's parsha we mentioned, Moshe comes down from the mountain with the tablets, right? And they're making the golden calf, and the fire's still there, right? The fire's still on the mountain from Sinai, right? And that fire went to the tabernacle, traveled with them 40 years in the desert, right? Semi-permanently in a number of places in Nov and Givon and Beitel, and finally it was brought in Shiloh. Finally it was brought to Yerushalayim by King David, the Ark of God, and Solomon built the first temple, right? That is the place where God's presence is felt. We had the Red Sea, splitting of the Red Sea, and the rabbis say a maidservant, the lowest class, saw at the Red Sea what Ezekiel the prophet didn't see. In case you don't know who Ezekiel the prophet was, he's the one who said, the heavens opened up, I saw God sitting on the throne. That's Ezekiel the prophet, right? They also, in 3 places in the song of this Naz Yashir, it's mentioned, Nigdash Hashem, Koden Hashem, Hashem's temple, right? At Sinai, the entire Jewish people saw God. We can't preface, right? He opened up the heavens above, you saw, right? You were shown to see. But Hashem didn't want this to be a one-time affair. So he told us, build a tabernacle where we can constantly feel God's presence. And then the first temple was unbelievable. The second temple was much less. Right? When they built the second temple, it says the younger generation was rejoicing. Thank God we're building the temple. The old generations were crying, you call that a temple? Those who remember the old one, right? This is nothing compared to that one, right? Similarly, in our generation, thank God there were yeshivas, boys are studying Torah, right? So our generation, wonderful yeshivas. Those who remember the previous generation in Europe, you call that a yeshiva. I'm not that old, right? But I still remember 40 years ago when I came to Israel, right? It was much different, right? Much different. The yeshivas were much more into studying, much less into physical things, right? I remember when I came in 1969. It was too expensive to go to America very often. Very expensive to go to America, right? The American students that came to Israel in those days stayed minimum for 2 years. 2 years, right? The Europeans would go home to England, to France for Pesach. The Americans stayed here for Pesach too. Phone calls were very expensive, right? Once or twice a year, right? We sent aerograms we wrote, right? And we studied Torah. Right? We were immersed in Torah, right? Today, American students come, right? They call their parents every night, right? They go home for with sister's wedding, they go back for the Pesach, come back 3 times. Their parents come, take them out for a week to go to Torah, right? You call that a yeshiva? Anyway, the second temple was destroyed. In the second temple, we have letters from Roman soldiers that were stationed there, and they write, coming into the temple was like an experience, like being in a different world. Seeing the high priest on Yom Kippur was like seeing an angel, right? And today, what do we have left? We have the kotel. I compare the kotel to a bottle of perfume. Take a bottle of perfume and spill out all the perfume, right? Now smell the bottle. Smells good? Still a few drops left, right? That's the kotel, right? We had that spirituality. It's gone, but there's still a few drops left. You can still feel something of Sinai and the Red splitting of the Red Sea, and the first temple, the second temple, is still something there. So the commandment is to build a sanctuary where God's temple, God will put His presence in this world, right? Built an altar, not to claim steps to the altar, reverence to the temple, guard the temple, right? They had to constantly have somebody awake, right? It says in the Mishnah that if the guards fell asleep, the guy who was walking around, he could catch their garments on fire. Hot foot, right? To wake them up, right? What are we guarding from? Right? Someone's going to come in and steal. Someone's going to break in. What are they afraid of? Right? Buckingham Palace, the guards, right? Of the big sputters, right? They once asked the guard in Buckingham Palace, what would you do if somebody tried to break in? I do what anybody else would do. I call a bubby. I call a policeman, right? The answer is someone constantly has to be at the temple, either bringing a sacrifice or praying or studying Torah. God's presence is there. You have to be there always. Now today, since we have Jews living in America and Israel, and we have yeshivas in both places, there's always someone studying Torah. The first yeshiva for Lashon had shifts. There should never be the base medrash empty, right? Because some guys learn night, some guys day. Everybody has a shift where they learn, so there should never be empty. All night long they learn Torah, right? Here you have yeshivas in America. Yeshiva, when it's night over here, it's day over there. When it's day over there, it's night over there. There's always someone studying Torah. Keep the Torah going. Okay, that's guarding, not to leave it unguarded. You have the anointing oil. We pour on all the vessels oil, right? Why oil? Anybody know what the word Mashiach means? The anointed one. You pour oil on a king. Pour oil on a high priest. Why oil? Why? It's like oil poured on your head. Right? What's the idea of oil? Because when you mix oil with water, what happens? And which direction does the oil go? Up. Oil symbolizes going up, elevated, right? Not to remove the stays from the ark. The ark of God is always portable. It has, many of the vessels in the tabernacle had stays that you carried them with. When you came to when you set it up, you could take it out. But the ark is portable. Wherever we go, we took it with us, right? Famous picture of an Israeli soldier, Israeli chaplain who was caught on the Suez Canal during the Yom Kippur War. He was doing services for the soldiers, and he had a Torah scroll, right? And he went to captivity to Egypt carrying the Torah scroll. There's a picture, very famous picture of it, right? He was freed a few months later. But that picture symbolizes for me the Jewish people. We went into exile carrying the Torah, we came back carrying the Torah, right? That's the fact that you can't take the staves out of the ark. All right? Yes? Your question?
You can't take
The staves, the sticks that hold it up. No, you're not allowed to, and they put it in such a way you can't take it out, right? They made it thicker on the inside so you couldn't take it out. Right? Have you seen pictures of the Mishkan? And this is the Mishkan, right? Yeah, the oil stays, but the ones you could not take out was only the Aron. Right? They didn't have the Aron in the Bayis Sheni. There was the Aron, a second. Underneath the Bet Temple Mount is from Bayis Rishon, right? You have the tablets of the Ten Commandments. You have the staff of Aaron. You have the jar of manna, right? You have the Aron, right? I think you have the Aron there also, right? You have the Aron there, right? The Aron is there also with the Kruvim, right? The Kruvim, right? But you don't have that was the from Bayis Rishon, right? But that's not the same as the one from the. I don't think that's the same one from the Mishkan. That was the same one from the Mishkan. When they built the base of Mikdash, when Shlomo built the Mikdash, he made it much bigger. Yeah, sure. Sure.
He made a new Aron and everything.
Yeah. Bayis Rishon, sure. Look in Sefer Malachim. When Shlomo built the first Bayis Rishon, he made it different. He made new ones, right? Sure. The old ones were put away. I don't know where the old ones were put away in Geniza, wherever. I don't know.
So where's the new ones then?
The new ones are underground.
And the old ones?
The ones from the Mishkan, I don't know. There was no Aron in the Bayis Sheni. He took the menorah. No, there was no one. Bayis Sheni, there was just the rock, the Evan Shasiya, where the dome is today, right? When he came, the Kohen Gadol went into the Kohen Kadoshim and he sprinkled the blood. He put the incense on the rock. The Bayis Rishon, you had the Aron there, because the reason for that,
on top of the rock?
the Aron was on top of the rock. Yeah. The reason why we have no Aron in the Bayis Sheni was because what's in the Aron? The luchos, right? And the luchos were hidden away, right? Without luchos, there's no purpose of making an Aron, right? You had the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol, the Choshen Mishpat. You didn't have the Urim V'Tumim. The Urim V'Tumim was the parchment inside that made it letters light up, right? They didn't have that in Bayis Sheni either, but they still had to have Shmona Begodim, they had to have 8 Begodim, so they had to make a breastplate without the Urim V'Tumim. But there's no purpose of an Aron without luchos, so there was no Aron inside in Bayis Sheni. What Titus got was the menorah. That's in the Arch of Titus, the menorah, and some say that wasn't even the right one. The one in the Arch of Titus wasn't even the right one according to some, right? Okay. Entering the temple. These are all the laws of the temple. We're going to go very quickly during this. When you're tamei, right? You have to wash your hands. Kohen with a physical blemish cannot enter the temple, right? If you have a blemish, right? you're disqualified from bringing sacrifice as a Kohen. If the animal has a blemish, right, it's disqualified for a sacrifice, right? And 3 times a year, who has to come to the Beis HaMikdash for the pilgrimage holidays? Healthy, strong adult males, right? Women are not required. Old people are not required. Children are not required. Someone who's blind, crippled, not required, right? They can if they want. They're not required to, right? What's the common denominator between these 3 things? Says Rabbi Hirsch, our Torah is dedicated to serving Hashem in the prime of life. When you're young, when you're healthy, when you got your life headed, that's the best time to serve Hashem, right? You can do it later too, but it's not worth the same amount of points. Right. Compare that to the other religions. You ever read National Geographic, right? Who are the ones, generally speaking, who go to the shrines of the saint and they crawl on their necks, barefoot on the rocks, right, to pray to the saint? The sick, the poor, the crippled, the blind, the decrepit ones, right? Nebuchadnezzar's ones with problems, right? The healthy adult males, they're out making money. They haven't got time to go to the saint, to the shrine of the saint. Right. Our Torah is dedicated to serve Hashem in the prime of life. Okay, then we have restrictions. Unblemished animals, we mentioned, sacrificial procedures. So let me just explain a little bit about the different forms of sacrifices, right? We have different categories. You have the Ola. Ola means a burnt offering. The Ola was burnt totally, except for the fats that were given to the Kohen, all right? What did the Ola atone for? Not performing a positive commandment, right? If you didn't put on tefillin, you want to make an atonement, and bad thoughts. That was not a requirement. It wasn't a requirement. If you wanted to have an atonement for bad thoughts or not doing a positive commandment, you could bring an Ola. Ola was a free will offering, right? You can bring whenever you want. Whenever it's a free will, whenever you want. Chatas was a sin offering, right? Chatas was a requirement. If you broke a negative prohibition unintentionally, right? You forgot it was Shabbos, you turned the light on, you got to bring a chatas sin offering, right? Then we have the guilt offering, which was for specific sins, right? Then we have the peace offering. Peace offering was when you didn't sin, you're feeling good. You feel close to God, right? You want to bring a sacrifice. And the peace offering was slaughtered on the altar. Parts were burnt on the altar. Part was given to the Kohen, and the rest was eaten by the owner. The owner and his family ate the peace offering with purity and holiness, right? Now, a non-Jew can bring a sacrifice in our temple, right? We don't have a monopoly on God, but only a burnt offering. By them, it's all or nothing. Either you priest and you're celibate, or if it feels good, do it. Right? By us, the concept of eating, and they can bring a burnt offering to God, okay. But to eat in honor of God, they can't do that. Right? Only we can do that, right? Is Shabbos a physical day or a spiritual day? Spiritual days. So if I had never heard of Shabbos, and someone told me one day we dedicate to God, I would have thought we pray all day, we meditate all day, we fast like Yom Kippur. So I would have thought we eat, we sleep, we do physical things on Shabbos, because you want to make a harmony between the physical and spiritual aspects of our lives, right? That's the beauty of Torah, right? That's the beauty of Torah. And I'll tell you a secret that most people don't know. If you make a harmony between the physical and spiritual aspects of your life, you enjoy the physical more. I repeat, you enjoy the physical more. You know why? Because physical pleasures are limited, right? When you finish eating, you can't look at food, right? Anything that you indulge in, any indulgence, when you're full, you can't look at it anymore. Spiritual pleasures are unlimited. You're working for Hatzalah. You save somebody's life. You feel good? Save another life. Feel good? Save another life. Enough lives! You don't say enough lives, right? Even negative spiritual pleasure, right? Honor. More honor. You never give up. Too much honor. Never too much honor. In my father's synagogue, they had an ad that anyone who wants to join the covet club. Anyone feels they're not getting enough honor, not enough covet, join our club, we get more honor. And then you have revenge. Revenge is sweet. I'm just giving, that's a negative thing, but it's a spiritual pleasure, right? So if you're able to harmonize eating in honor of Shabbos, right? Getting married and doing it properly, everything you do, spiritual events, you enjoy the physical more. So the peace offering is, I'm eating sacrifices in honor of God, right? And one subcategory of the peace offering is the thanksgiving. How do you say thank you in Hebrew? Todah, korban todah. That's what it's called, todah, right? Who's got to bring a thanksgiving offering? Someone who crossed an ocean, someone who crossed the desert, someone who is ill and got well, the life-threatening sickness, and someone who was in the dungeon. The old days, when they put you in dungeon, you didn't come out so fast, right? It wasn't like today's 4-star prisons, right? Prisons at hotels, right? When the Jews left Egypt, they had all 4, right? We left Egypt, we were slaves, and we crossed the desert, and we crossed the Red Sea, and in Sinai, who was ill got well, so we had to bring all 4, right? Today we don't have a Thanksgiving offering. Today we have a birchasa. We say Birchas HaGomel, right? If you cross the ocean on an airplane or someone's ill and gets well, you get called up to the Torah, you say a bracha. Shegamalani kol tov, God did me everything good. HaGomel chayavim tovos. He does good to those who chayavim, don't deserve it. And everybody says to him, he should do tov forever, right? A woman usually doesn't get called up to the Torah, but the custom is that after childbirth, she comes to a shul where there are men, and she says the bracha in front of 10 men, right? Another thing we do today is a Sudas Hador. We make a little party. Someone had a miracle made for them. They make a little party. And that's based on the fact that the Thanksgiving offering was 40 loaves of bread. 4 different kinds. 3 which are matzah, and 1 kind of chametz. And you have to finish it in one day. Most peace offerings, you have 2 days to finish it. The Thanksgiving, you have to finish 40 loaves of bread and a lot of meat in one day. So you couldn't finish by yourself. You had to invite your friends and tell your friends about the miracle. See what God did to me. He did me a favor. So it's customary today, if you have a miracle, to make a little party and invite your friends and tell them about the miracle that God did for you. That's the idea. Okay, then we have the daily offerings that were brought every day from the entire Jewish people. Then I'll go into the different animals. Every animal has a symbolism behind it, right? An ox, right? A male ox. What does it do? It pulls a plow, right? It works, right? I will be a worker in God's field. That's the symbolism of the cow. Right? What about a lamb? A lamb is more passive. Hashem is my shepherd. I will trust in Him. Right? When you bring a cow offering, you're dedicating yourself to work God actively. A lamb offering, more passive. What about a goat? What's the character trait of a goat? Stubborn. Try to pull a goat. You got my goat. Right? I'll be stubborn to serve God no matter what. I'm going to stay in yeshiva no matter what. How much pressure they put on me, I'll be stubborn. Right? Then you got the bird offering. Now it says it's a beautiful smell to God. What does it mean a beautiful smell to God? God smells it. Smells so good. What do you mean a beautiful smell to God? What do you mean, right? So Rabbi Hirsch says that we have different kinds of senses. 2 of our senses are very physical. Taste and touch. You have to come into physical contact with the object. Hearing and seeing is a little more spiritual. There's no physical contact. Eyesight and hearing. Smell is in the middle. There is physical contact. Particles come into your nose. If your nose is stuffed, you can't smell, right? Right? But they're very minute. Very minute particles come into your nose and you perceive them. Says Rabbi Hirsch, when a Jew comes to the temple, he wants to come close to God. He wants to elevate himself spiritually. Those feelings may be very minute, right. I come to yeshiva because I want to have a relationship with God. I want to grow spiritually. I want to. They're very... And Hashem perceives those feelings. Like when you smell something, these minute feelings come into your nose and you perceive them. Hashem smells the beautiful smell of the sacrifice. He perceives the feeling that the person has and he wants to elevate himself spiritually. Right? So I slaughter the animal in me symbolically. I take the blood of the animal, which represents my life. I go over to the altar of God, which represents God's service. And I sprinkle the blood on the altar. I'm dedicating my life to the service of God. Right? And then we burn the meat on the fat on the altar to burn the fire of godliness in the world, says Rabbi Hirsch. To burn the fire of godliness, right? I'll tell you something very interesting, Rabbi Hirsch. There's a difference between the burnt offering and the sin offering. The sin offering, right? You take the blood and you put it on the top of the altar. See, here's the altar where we burnt the fats. On the side of the altar, you have to sprinkle the blood. The burnt offering, the olah, you sprinkle on the bottom of the altar, the blood. And the burnt offering, you place it sim on the top of the altar. What's the difference? Says Rabbi Hirsch, when someone didn't do a positive commandment, burnt offering atones for not doing a positive commandment. Why you didn't do a positive commandment? I got so many mitzvahs. I don't need that mitzvah. Me and God, we're like that. I don't need a mitzvah. I did so many mitzvahs. I don't do that mitzvah. I do a bunch of mitzvahs. You have no mitzvahs. You're all the way on the bottom. You need every mitzvah you can. Sprinkle the blood on the bottom. You're all the way on the bottom. You need every mitzvah you can get. Right. Someone who broke a negative commandment unintentionally because he wasn't paying attention, right? I forgot it was Shabbos, turned the light on, right? The rabbis made a decree, one should not read on Shabbos by an adjustable lamp, by a kerosene lamp, which you might forget at Shabbos. And one rabbi said, me forget at Shabbos? I'm so spiritual on Shabbos, no way! And he didn't listen to the rabbinical decree, and he read by a kerosene lamp, and sure enough, what happened? He forgot and he adjusted it, right? So he wrote in his book, I have broken the Shabbos, when Mashiach comes, I'll bring a fat sin offering, right? A sin offering is, you didn't pay attention, right? If you know that button's going to make an atomic bomb, you'll make sure no one pushes that button, right? So take the blood, which represents your life, go over to the altar of God, which represents God's service, and you put it on the top. You place it meticulously on top. You have to pay attention, right? You have to make sure you're on top and don't fall down, right? Make sure you don't fall down. Then we have the bird offering. The bird offering is unique. You flick off its head with your fingernail, right? If you did that to a bird today, it wouldn't be kosher, right? But here in the temple, you have the bird offerings. The burnt offerings were burnt, but the sin offerings of bird were eaten by the Kohen, even though it was flicked off, right? Flicked off its head. You squeeze its blood out, right? By the animal sacrifice, you take the blood in a vessel and you sprinkle it. Here, you squeeze it out, right? You tear it open, right? You throw its gizzard on the side of the altar. Right? The gizzard is the digestive system of the bird, right? The intestines of the animal are washed to get all the schmutz out, and then they're burnt on the altar, right? Why are the gizzards thrown away? And the rabbis say, because the animal, domestic animal, eats what its owner gives him, right? Birds are crooks. They steal, right? They fly around, and they take from other people's fields, right? Nothing stolen should be on God's altar, right? And birds don't really steal, right? It's symbolic, right? The Gemara says, had the Torah not been given, we would learn things from animals. We would learn cleanliness from cats. We would learn loyalty from dogs, right? How do you say dog in Hebrew? Kelev, kalev, like a heart, right? How do you say lion in Hebrew? Aryeh, yoreh, afraid, right? You see a lion, you're frightened, right? That's the Hebrew, right? So we learn things from animals, every animal. King Solomon says in Proverbs, lazy person, go look at the ant. The ant is so energetic. They go back and forth, right? We had a road from the base membership to the dormitory. They go back and forth like ants, back and forth, right? Ants collect enough grain to last for, I forgot exactly how it goes. Something like they collect enough for 6 months and they only live for 6 weeks, something like that, right? Something like that. I'm not sure exactly the number, something like that. But Solomon noticed something about the ants. If an ant puts down a crumb and goes away, no other ant will take that crumb. They smell it, they won't take it. Solomon noticed that. Here's the Proverbs. The ants they don't have any policemen, they don't steal, right? They don't steal, right? So I was, Mr. Ant, come here, Mr. Ant. Where'd you get that crumb from? He stole it from the guy's table. Bunch of crooks, right? They don't steal from each other. Great. It's a big deal, right? They don't steal from each other, right? Of course the ants don't steal. It's all symbolic, right? We're supposed to learn a lesson from the ants, right? So the birds, of course the birds don't steal, but since they take their food from other places, that can't be on God's altar. We take the crop and we throw it on the side. By the way, was there a whole pile of crops on the side of the altar? The Gemara says an open miracle happened throughout the times of the temple. The earth opened up its mouth and swallowed them down. All the crops and all also the ashes. In the morning, you would take the Truan Sadech and you take ashes from the top and put it on the side, and it would be swallowed. The earth would swallow it down.
It says we take them to the outside of the camp.
That was after when they got very big. You would take it all and bring it to the top of the camp. But every morning, you take one spoonful and put it on the side of the altar, and it would be swallowed up. Truma Sadeshin, that's true. That's at the end when it got very big, they would take it outside. You're right. But every morning, the Truma Sadeshin that was taken. The first thing they did in the morning was Truma Sadeshin. That was to show the continuation of at night we had the morning sacrifice, Tamid Shel Shachar. We had the afternoon sacrifice, Tamid Shel Bayim. At night, all the animals that weren't burnt during the day were put on the altar and burnt. And in the morning, the first thing you did was you took the shovel, you shoveled the ashes to show a continuation from morning to the night before, which means when you daven, it's supposed to be a continuation. At Shacharis, you're continuing where you left off at Ma'ariv. Mincha, where you left off at Shacharis. It's a continuation. You're going, you're traveling. Imagine you're on a train. You look out the window, and you see, same scenery, same mountains, the same lakes, but you're seeing it from a different vantage point because you're traveling, right? You're seeing life through a different vantage point every minute of your life. We're traveling through life, right? And we're davening from a different vantage point. So it's continuation. That's the idea, the ashes, right? So we're back to the burnt offering, right? And then we squeeze it out, we tear it apart, we tear it out, and we burn it, we put it on the altar with all the feathers. Beautiful smell to God. Have you ever smelled burning feathers? Is it a good smell or a bad smell? It's a horrible smell. What a beautiful smell to God. Right? So Rabbi Hirsch explains what's the symbolism of the burnt offering. Burnt offering was a poor man, right? A poor man who could not afford a cow, could not afford a lamb or a sheep or a goat. He brought the burnt offering, right? And the poor man, right? King David describes himself as being always running away from his enemies like birds. They're trapping me like birds. They're killing me like birds. The poor man, the person who's suffering, right? Even if they flick off my head, they tear me apart, they squeeze out all my blood, with every last drop of blood in my body, I'll still burn the fire of godliness in the world, says Rabbi Hirsch, right? And it's interesting, by the burnt offering, it's interesting, the sin offering, the blood is on the bottom, and the burnt offering, the blood is on the top, the opposite of an animal offering. And I'm not sure exactly how he explains it. I think when you're in suffering and you don't do a mitzvah, it's not because you think you don't need that mitzvah. You're so great. You're so good. Because you give up hope. What do I need a mitzvah for? I'm so bad anyway. I'm so low anyway. It's not going to help. You have to raise the guy up instead of putting him down like in the burnt or the animal offering. You have to raise him up. Put him on the top. Right. It says it's just the opposite. Everything turns upside down when it comes to someone who's suffering. Right. It's just the opposite. The burnt offering is on the top and the sin offering is on the bottom. In the case, then the guy who can't even afford a bird, what does he bring? He brings a meal offering. Meal, right? Grain. And where did he get the grain from? It says, Nefesh kiyofi, a soul who will bring you grain as a meal offering. It's like he brought a soul. Where does the poor man get grain from? They would go after the harvest. We learned that in the last class, right? When they would harvest the fields, they would carry on. There's leket shicha pay if he dropped 1 or 2 grains, left behind 1 or 2 bundles, right? The pay. He would spend all day long, gleaning in the field and get a little bit of grain to make bread for his family, right? And he would take that grain and bring it for offering. That's like he brought his soul. That's considered like he brought his soul. Something for a poor man to give $1 is a lot harder than for a rich man to give $100, right?
It says, so what's the description? Is that this is a precious pshat, or is it the description that they use in the Torah? Is that it's like he brought his soul?
Yeah. The Torah says, Nefesh kiyovi, a soul who will bring a soul. And the Rabbi Rashi says, it's like he brought a soul. Rashi says it from the Chazal. I forgot to mention about the poor man. One more thing about the poor man. I forgot to mention, why the feathers? Why the feathers? The Gemara says this. You know what the Gemara says? The Gemara says, the poor man comes to the base of Mikdash and he sees the rich man brought a cow. Takes up half the altar, right? The middle income man brought a goat or a sheep. Takes up a quarter of the altar. All these guys, a little bird. Take off the feathers, it's 2 by 2. He's very embarrassed. Says the Torah, you take that bird and you spread it on the altar with all the feathers. It should take a lot of room on the altar. The poor man should not be embarrassed. That's a beautiful smell to God. You know what the beautiful smell to God is? That the poor man is not embarrassed. That's what the Gemara says. Why do we burn the feathers, right? So the poor man shouldn't feel bad. He just sees, this guy brings a cow, this guy brings a ram, this guy brings a lamb. Oh, I got a little bird, right? Spread it out. It should take a lot of room. The poor man should not be embarrassed. That's a beautiful smell to God.
Spread out the feathers?
Spread. When you slaughter if you took all the feathers off, how big is the bird? It's stunning. It's 2 by 2, right? He'd be very embarrassed, right? In order not to embarrass, even though the smell has a bad smell, but in order to make the poor man feel good, we spread it out, take a lot of room on the altar. That's the idea.
Is there a certain amount of how much space?
Whatever, as much as it can. But if you take all the feathers, he'd be very embarrassed. That's the point.
Previous fire on it, or
What?
does he start a new fire with that?
No, you put it on the fire. There's already closed. There's already fire there. Right? Okay, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Okay, so we have the sacrifice on the holidays. If it's disqualified, right? If you think the wrong thoughts when you bring a sacrifice, it disqualifies it, right? He can't think he's gonna eat it in the wrong place. He's gonna sprinkle the blood. And the wrong intention. The wrong intention disqualifies it, right? There was an eyewitness, Chasam Wasserman. He was in America when the war broke out, and he went back special to Europe to be with his family and his students, right? And he was in the middle of giving a lecture. They were in Kovna, and the Nazis came and they made them march to the outside town. They threw him into a fire, right? Burned him alive, right? On his way to the outside, he kept on saying his shir, and when he got there, he said, "We are being asked to be sacrifices for our brothers and sisters in America." That's what he said. And make sure your mind have the right intentions, because the bad intention disqualifies the sacrifice. That's what he told us. His last words. Yom Kippur service. We'll save this. Okay, book 9 is the book of sacrifice, and it starts off with the Passover sacrifice. Okay, the Passover sacrifice was the first sacrifice we brought in Egypt, and it was unique. It was unique, right? You know, the lamb was the god of the Egyptians, right? Slaughtering a lamb in front of an Egyptian was like burning a dollar bill in front of an American. Burning an American flag, right? That was dangerous business, right? They were still slaves. Right? So God commands the Jews to take a lamb, the god of Egypt, like the holy cow in Egypt, right, in India, and to slaughter it, right? So if you were a Jew in Egypt at that time, what would be the smartest way to do it? 5 minutes before the time, grab a lamb real fast, slaughter it, cut it into mincemeat, put it into a pot, cover it up. Mystery meat. Nobody knows what it is. Well, chief guest stuff. Mystery meat. Nobody knew what it was, right? But the Torah says no. 4 days before, right? Shabbos Hagadol. Why is it called Shabbos Hagadol? Shabbos was before they had to take this. Everybody had to buy a lamb, right? And watch it for 3 days. Tie it to your doorpost. It doesn't have a blemish, right? For 3 days you have to watch it, right? So for 3 days, the Egyptians go by the Jewish house. Bah. We got lambs. What's going on? Well, we have pet lambs, right? then comes the time of the sacrifice. You got to slaughter the ram, right? And sprinkle the blood on the door, right? And roast it on a spit with its head intact, right? On the fire. Smells good. Barbecue, mangal. What's for supper, Jew? Oh no, my God! Ah! That was dangerous, They could kill you for that, right? You have to have a lot of chutzpah to do that, right? You have to trust in Hashem. They slaughter the rams, and everybody, the Egyptians are watching. My God! And they're roasting it, they're eating it. Pesach sacrifice. That was very difficult, right? To show you trust in God. To show you trust. It was slaughtering the God of the Egyptians in front of their eyes, right? Even Moshe. See, Pharaoh tells Moshe, why don't you just bring your sacrifice to God in Egypt? Why do you have to go to the desert for it? He says, what? We'll slaughter the rams, the lambs. We're going to slaughter the abomination of Egypt, and they won't stone us, right? That's what Moshe does in the Torah, right? And yet, they brought the Pesach sacrifice in Egypt, and they didn't stone them, right? See? So every year we got to bring the Pesach sacrifice. The entire Jewish people have to come to Jerusalem, right? There was no room in Jerusalem for everybody to stay. They had to make tents. They pitched up. All of them had to be on the first floor, right? One rabbi told his daughter, when you buy an apartment in Jerusalem, make sure you don't buy the first floor, right? Because when Mashiach comes, right, they're all going to come for the pilgrimage holidays. They want to all stay in your house, right? First floor is where you have to bring the Pesach sacrifice. You can't go on the second floor. You can't eat the Pesach sacrifice on the second floor. It's got to be on the first floor, right? Interesting, right? And how they slaughtered so many sacrifices. The Mishnah says how they had an assembly line, right? They would bring the lambs, 1,000 lambs. They would slaughter it. They would have you had to sprinkle the blood on the altar, right? So they would put the blood into a vessel. They would pass the bloods up. There was an assembly line from one place to the other. Kohanim one after the other. They wore red garments. So if the blood spill shouldn't be a stain. And the guy in the end would sprinkle it and pass it back, right? Pass it back like that. What? No, in the Beis Hamikdash. In the Beis Hamikdash, when they brought the Pesach sacrifice, right? Yeah. In fact, they were divided into 3 groups, and they would say the Hallel when they would say it, right? And it says in the Mishnah, they never got past the second paragraph of the Hallel by the third group before they were finished. They were so efficient at the third group. There was so few left for the third group that they said the first 2 paragraphs of the Hallel and were finished already, right? Now, what happens if it comes on Shabbos? Shabbos, you can slaughter the sacrifice on Shabbos, but you can't roast it on Shabbos. You have to roast it, right? So they all had to. They had to slaughter their sacrifice and sit there until the 3 groups had to sit in the Beis Hamikdash until it was after dark when Shabbos was over, right? And then they would take it and they would roast it, and they would bring it and eat the Pesach sacrifice, right? And they would sing Hallel. The whole Yerushalayim was Hallel, right? It was beautiful. Okay, you can't break any bones. Someone's uncircumcised cannot eat it. Can't leave the mate. You have to eat it until midnight. Then we have the pilgrim offerings. You have to bring every time you come to all the holidays, you have to bring a sacrifice. Firstborn animal, right? Firstborn animal cannot be eaten, right? It has to be given to the Kohen, and he brings it for a sacrifice. Today it's very problematic because you can't eat it unless it has a blemish. So it's customary today to give it over to you sell it to a non-Jew. If you have a firstborn animal that's giving birth, you sell it to a non-Jew until after it gives birth. That's the best way to do with it. Then we have the tithe. It's not applied today. You have to give a tithe of the animals. They would take every animal, take 10, they would make it go through a narrow spray, and then they would take a red dye and put it on the 10th one. The 10th one was given to the Kohen. This is not applied today. All right? But that's the analogy on Rosh Hashanah. We're coming to Rosh Hashanah, right? Kivakoris, every one of us is standing before God just like the counting the sheep, right? The 10th one gets the blood, right? On Rosh Hashanah, we're all coming before God one by one being counted. What's going to be the year ahead? Okay. Then we have, you can't substitute one sacrifice for another sacrifice, right? If I designated one animal for a sacrifice, right? And then I said the second one, animal B should be instead of animal A. Whether animal B is better or worse, the halacha is they're both holy, right? Animal B is holy, animal A still remains holy, right? Where do we see an example of this? We talked about the Akedah, right? Avram designated the ram instead of his son. But in the end, right? He dedicated Isaac to be in sacrifice, and then he took the ram instead. So even though he slaughtered the ram, Isaac still remained a sacrifice. Meaning Yitzchak was unique among the forefathers. Yitzchak could not leave Israel. Avram left Israel and Yaakov left Israel, but Yitzchak cannot. Yitzchak cannot marry a maidservant, right? He only had one wife, right? Because his whole life he lived under the awe of the Akedah, right? That's why Yitzchak's character trait is Gevura. His character trait is Pachad Yitzchak, right? He was fear of Hashem, right? Says that Yaakov swore the fear of his father Yitzchak, right? So even though Yitzchak even though he slaughtered the ram, he was still considered, had a concept of being still, even though his whole life he was like a living sacrifice. That was Yitzchak. Interesting. After birth, the woman has to bring a sin offering, right? What's a sin? What'd she do wrong? Right? It's wrong to have a baby, right? Possibly during childbirth, she might have been very, very upset with the pain, and she might have said, I'm not going back to my husband, no more babies, right? He might have said something improper, so just in case, the sin offering atones for it. Okay. So we finished book 9. I think we'll stop here. We just have 10, 11, just a few more to go. I mean, one or two more sessions, we finished. Any questions? Comments? Arguments? Okay. I rest my case. Thank you very much.